Hello everybody, it's Kadzo with Kadzo for Africa and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to cover the very interesting question that a lot of you have been asking me. How do you answer the question, tell me about your weakness? If you're interested in this information, stay tuned. It's a tough question, I get it. But in a job interview, whenever they are asking you about telling your strengths and weaknesses, it's very easy for you to automatically panic and wonder, well, what should I say? Because the strengths part is easy because you can talk about what makes you really a strong candidate, either as a domestic or international student. But everybody gets really nervous about the weaknesses part. For domestic applicants, you're nervous because you do want to get the job. And for international people, it's like, oh my gosh, I need to get the visa. I don't want to share any weakness. So the first tip that I want to share with you is please answer the question. Do share a weakness. In the information bar, I have provided you some samples that could trigger some things about you, your personality, and your work ethic that you can share as weaknesses. But let me go ahead and share with you one that I have often shared. So for example, you could identify your weakness, and in my case, I did, as the fact that I am a very big picture person, which sometimes makes me miss the little details that are very, very important when it comes to any type of job situation. The reason why I wanted to be open with at least one weakness is that you also want to give an opportunity to be able to spin it into something positive. So the first thing you want to do is you want to go ahead and identify a weakness and be able to clearly talk about it, just like I did in my particular situation. Tip number 2. Now that you have identified the weakness, how do you then turn it into a positive? So what I try to do every time I mention what the weakness is then I go in and talk about how I can make a positive turn to it. So the example I used before was the fact that I tend to be a big picture thinking person, and I tend to sometimes forget about the little details. But what I also add is that my big picture thinking helps me be able to think broadly about work projects. I'm able to think about the future and be able to plan accordingly. And so I always try to, even though it's a weakness, as you could tell in the previous example, now I'm making it into a positive thing. And I'm talking a little bit about how that broad, big picture thinking can help me be an asset for the company. And then I talk a little bit about how sometimes when you are thinking big picture, which is thinking about the future, thinking about the projects, it does help that you can have somebody in the team be thinking about the small details and how you can be able to put these pieces together. And that actually will lead into the third thing I will talk about, which is how you can actually twist this weakness into something really, really powerful that will be able to help you get the job. But you've gotten part 2, which is you've now gone from really just explaining the weakness to talking a little bit about what that weakness does for you. So kind of like how in my case, I was able to do that. So that can really help you in the process. And then my final tip when it comes to talking about your weakness is continuing the conversation and telling them a little bit about how this will work for you in that particular job environment. So for example, in my case, what I told them is that my weakness is that I am big picture thinking and sometimes I miss out on the details. And then I proceeded in step 2 to talk about a little bit about how my big picture thinking is an asset to the company. It helps me think about the future. It helps me be able to plan. All these assets are very important in terms of the growth or the future for the particular company. And then I talked a little bit about how sometimes when you're big picture, you fail to kind of think about the small details that may arise out of the particular situation. Now here's tip number 3. You want to wrap it up by saying, and in my particular example, I said, what I have learned about being a big picture person is how to work in a team. Because in this particular job for this company, I will be working, for example, in a team. And so I will try to make sure that as I think on big picture projects, I'm also working with somebody in the team to make sure that I don't miss out the small details that can make that project be able to work. I really think that this collaboration and teamwork will help me be an asset for this company. So you can even see within that particular example, all of a sudden, something that you started off with that seemed like a bad thing has now all of a sudden developed into something really positive, and you've tied it in with the company and even shared a little bit more about yourself. And so those are the tips when it comes to talking and sharing when they ask you the question about, tell me about your strengths and your weaknesses. So I hope that video was helpful, everybody. Like I said before, in the information bar at the bottom, I have provided you some links that you can access to be able to at least identify specific weaknesses and then practice with those as you go for your job interview. And folks, what's new in my channel is that I do have a link that you can access to be able to subscribe to my channel. So make sure that you click on that. But also on this side of my channel, I do have a video that I recommend that you watch that will continue this conversation as you continue on your journey to whether it is career success or if you're finding tips as an international or as a domestic student. If you subscribe to my channel, I will provide you a list of schools that offer scholarships for bachelor's, master's, and PhD students. So please subscribe, send me an email, and get started on that process. So thank you for watching, everybody. Until my next video, bye now.